we convened today to discuss a topic that first came to our mind with, and I'll just tell like a brief story of a class, with the introductory students of knowledge, and it was actually an Arabic class. And in this Arabic class, there was, a text used for the purpose of learning Arabic, but it presented a chauvinistic statement that one of the students found very, 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 problematic and offended by, and this created sort of a cascade of questions and even doubts and concerns that grew out outside of the Arabic class into questioning of the tradition and questioning of previous scholarship. So from that, we wanted to bring you on, Ustada, with your expertise.
So first of all, I just have to say this is an important conversation. I'm glad that you've opened this discussion. It's so interesting, I think, that we actually haven't, in a very sort of intentional way, maybe thought about, okay, before we present these texts to our students who are largely uninitiated, and honestly, the vocabulary employed by pre-modern ulama, the historical circumstances in which they operated, the kind of prevailing cultural climate, I think it's really good to do some type of orientation for our students as maybe kind of an icebreaker, because I think that one of the problems, Brother Salim, is that say we sit in a class and say we open this text, and I think we're really looking at these books with very kind of rose-tinted lenses, and by rose-tinted lenses, I think, in other words, that we're almost bringing an assumption of that this person must be just infallible because this book is part of a canon. And I think that it's really important to understand that our ulama were human beings, and as human beings that they were certainly not immune to having been influenced by their environment and by certain assumptions that were prevalent, assumptions about women, assumptions about minorities, assumptions about people from other ethnic backgrounds. And I think it's important to be able to kind of separate between some of the assumptions that person may have held and the value of that person's work. I think that we conflate a lot of things, and I think it's really important to understand that, when we look at these texts, that we have to appreciate the complexity behind the person and their background, and again, the circumstances that produce this text. There's only one text that's inerrant, and that's the Qur'an. And then, we have our primary sources. Number one, the Qur'an, then of course the Sunnah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it's really important that when we again look at the books of our pre-modern ulama, we have to understand that these are, this is not wahi, right? This is not revelation. Certainly these are very pious, erudite people who are definitely on a certain level inspired, but we're not talking about revelation here. And I think that, so when we read a book, say it's by a pre-modern scholar, like even Al-Ghazali rahimahullah, who said some things about women and gender that in this day and age we would say, well, this is offensive, or this is hurtful, or this seems to be misogynistic, that it's important to understand that, again, this was a human being, and he had a lot of different experiences, he interacted with different people, and it may be the case where maybe he just came across women whose conduct perhaps was not impressive to him. I mean, you have to give people some benefit of the doubt, right? Because I've read these texts, I'm like, well, this is interesting. Why would he have written this? What kind of women did he actually meet and deal with? So I think you have to maybe kind of try to read between the lines a little bit. And for me, personally, I like to give husn al-dhan to this person. That no, he didn't hate all women. He had 4 daughters, for heaven's sake. So there probably was a private Al-Ghazali that none of us will ever know, right? So I think we should give our ulama the benefit of the doubt, and I think that we need to be careful about, sort of using really loaded terms. Because if I read this text, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is just so misogynistic or so racist. I'm gonna like shut down, and now I'll not benefit at all from this sheikh or this scholar and the writings they produced. So I think that we need to take a deep breath and just approach this with husn al-dhan. And again, for teachers, it's really important that we do an orientation for our students.
To listen to the full episode, please visit ImanWire.com.